Hey, what's up guys? New knife to review today. Now this one I'm particularly fond of. I love all knives. If it's got a sharp edge, I like it. I like cutlery. That's why I name myself Cutlery Lover. It's just my thing, as you know. But this specific knife has just really struck my fancy lately. I don't know why. Just overall, I like it. I like it a lot. I think it looks cool. It's very purposeful. Works great. Been EDCing a lot. You can probably see a lot of the wear on the blade. But I like it. And this is the Kershaw Knockout. It's model 1870. We'll talk to why it's called the Knockout and stuff as well. Let's talk about it right now. Let's go do specs first, but let's just get right into it. This is called the Knockout because this is a Sub-Framelock. This is kind of a new genre of locking knives. And basically what you have is a frame lock, but the lock bar is not original to the frame. Okay, whereas a traditional frame lock, you'd have your flat front scale, and then the locking side or locking scale, you'd have a little laser cutout, and then the frame would move over, and that would be your lock, right? Well, the idea behind having a subframe lock or putting an additional piece or a separate piece for your lock bar is the advantage of having two different types of materials. In this case, we have an aluminum body and handle scales, and we have a stainless steel lock bar. So you have the added advantage of a stronger lock, but the lighter weight handle overall. Pretty cool, very innovative, very trendy. There's a lot of different companies and some custom makers doing this right now. So I like that Kershaw is, staying with the theme of things. And, don't think for one second that these companies, Benchmade, Spyderco, Kershaw, Columbia Knife and Tool, Olmar, I mean, just the slew of all these people, they're watching YouTube videos. They're reading knife forums, okay? They're seeing what user feedback there is. They want to make stuff that we want to buy. That's just how it works. It's like all companies. They have whole, marketing teams in some cases when they're bigger companies, and that's all their job is to do, is to see what we have to say. So YouTube videos, particularly knife reviews, do have a big impact on what the industry, what direction they go. They want to sell stuff we want to buy. That's that simple. But anyway, this is kind of trendy, so they came out with a model. They called it the Knockout because they literally knocked the chunk out of the frame to add a stronger, better frame, or excuse me, frame lock bar. So anyway, let's talk about some specs, get that out of the way. I like knowing the specs, obviously, but seeing something in someone's hand is a little different than just hearing numbers. And no matter how many times I tell you how big the blade is, you might get it home and go, wow, this is bigger than I thought, or wow, that's smaller than I thought. But some people like it anyway. So what we're looking at here is a 3¼ inch blade. Now the blade steel is a Sandvik 14C28N stainless. What does that mean? Because a lot of you don't know. And that's okay. At the end of this review, we're going to talk in depth about this specific steel because a lot of people want more information about blade composition. I might have an entire series on this. There's a lot of information to get out there. All the different elements that go into blade steels, what their purposes are. We'll do that separately down the road, but at least in this video, we'll talk to this specific steel a little bit more so you can get a better understanding of what the deal is. Or at least a comparison to some other steels you may already have experience with. Because if I just say, hey, it's got Sandvik 14C28N, it's good, that doesn't mean anything to you. It doesn't help you out. So I want to give you a comparison to maybe something you've used in the past. So anyway, overall weight on this, 3.6 ounces. Very cool. Again, the additional stainless steel lock bar, but you get a little bit cut in weight because you do have the aluminum frame here. Overall length is 7.8 inches open. This is a speed assist knife. It's got a little flipper on the back, or I should say speed safe. It's Kershaw's patented thing for their torsion bar system. And basically, if you don't know, as you initiate the blade open via the flipper or the ambidextrous thumb studs, when it gets to a certain point, the spring action takes over and fully opens your knife into the open lock position. Okay. What I like about this one specifically, actually, for as far as deployment goes or opening, the flipper is very nice. Some knives, the flippers are uncomfortable. They're shaped oddly. They're too big, too small. This one's just right. It's that baby bear porridge. It's right in the middle, not too big, not too small. Very smooth, no jimping on or anything, which is great. I'm not going to miss it. I've never had a flipper that was just too smooth for me to get. Just real comfortable, easy to get to. Flips out great. What I also like about this is the thumb studs are specifically thumb studs for opening. A lot of times the thumb studs will actually be the locking pin or locking bar. Okay, in this case there's a dedicated locking bar. And what that does is it prevents over travel. So when your blade opens and locks, you can see there's a cutout in the back of the tang, and it locks up with that bar. So this cannot travel any further. This prevents blade play. And by the way, this locks up like a bank vault. In its price range, I think it is superior in as far as having not having any blade play, which is really, really nice. So yeah, you see the thumb studs are nowhere near touching the frame. In some cases, instead of having this, some knife models will actually have a cutout in the frame, and the thumb stud is in a position in which when it's open, it acts as the lock bar, so it doesn't have any over travel. So interesting that they have just specific ambidextrous thumb studs. They're placed nicely on the handle. As far as ergonomics go, it's right there. It's exactly where it should be. Very easy to open. So I like that a lot. And if I were to happen to take the torsion bar out of this and make this a manual knife, I would use those thumb studs quite often to flick the knife open. So really, really nice in that case. Made in the United States of America. One of the big things, of course, that will reflect on price. A lot of people like buying all USA made knives. That's cool. If you don't like foreign knives, that's fine. I do personally think you're missing out a little bit, but hey, I'm not going to get into the politics of why or why not you buy knives. All I can say is that this one's a good one, and it is made in the United States of America. Price tag on this is going to run anywhere from $70 to $100. You're getting into a lot of different options out there for that price range. Okay, but this knife does offer a few things that a lot of other knives don't. The biggest thing is obviously being new and trendy with the Sub-Framelock. I like an all-metal knife as long as it's kind of warm to the feel. Having an all-metal knife, there is some things to consider. In the winter time, it will stay cold. Okay, a lot of people like their synthetic handles because they use their, particularly EDC knives, you know, not a purposeful built knife for one task. You're talking about something you're going to carry every day. In the wintertime, if you don't have any gloves on, this aluminum frame will retain that coldness. Okay, so if you just have a bare hand, you grab your metal knife when it's 20 degrees out or colder, it's going to be cold in your hand. You know, it should be common sense, but some people don't think about stuff like that. That's why a lot of people stay away from the all metal knives. It could be a con in your opinion. I like the way it feels. It just feels sturdy. I like the synthetics. I like G10, micarta, carbon fiber. They're all awesome. But there's just something about an all metal knife that just feels solid. The fact that this locks up so nicely and it's just all metal feels good. I really like it. It's a bonus for me. I wear gloves in winter, so I'm not worried about being cold. But just something for you guys to consider out there. As far as the carry itself, I don't like the pocket clip design, just the way it looks. It's purposely, I mean, it's very purposeful. It works great. The tension's really good on it. It's not too tight, not too loose. And, you know, just overall, it just looks a little cheap to me. It's not a big deal. It's just a personal preference. What I do like about this knife, and Kershaw's doing with a lot of their stuff now, is that they have it tapped for all a 4-carry position. Okay, tip up, tip down, left or right hand carry. I love that. Of course, a lot of people's preference. And this is not by mistake, guys. This is because you're talking about it all the time on the forums and here on YouTube. I like tip up, right hand carry style knives. So you're seeing a lot of these factory knives that are coming just like that, right hand tip up carry. Okay, they listen to you. Now they give you the option to change it, which is, I just love that. It's another step that a knife company has to do. It has to go through machines, another time to drill and tap all these holes, but I love the option. I'll probably never move this clip. Most of you guys probably don't touch your pocket clips. Unless, you know, you get something that's tipped down and you really don't like it and then you want to make it tip up. But whatever, it's good to have the options. They're just little holes. So that's pretty cool. I like that. Yeah, it's totally functional. It's just personally, I've seen other pocket clips. I like the style better. Not a big deal. Certainly not a selling, you know, a point in which I'm going to not buy the knife or buy the knife because of the pocket clip. But I thought it'd be worth mentioning. There is a lanyard hole on this. Although it's undersized, it's pretty small. All right, so if you're one of these guys that love your 550 lanyards, you're gonna have a little bit tough time getting it through there. Of course, most of you guys know the trick. You take the guts out, one of those little white nylon strings. You know, you can search YouTube if you don't know that one, but it's a great little trick to get fatter cord, you know, gauge cordage through smaller holes like that. Now, what else can I talk about? The blade shape itself, very versatile. I like this. When people ask me what's a great EDC knife, and I'm gonna talk about this, you know, in a separate video, but you want versatility. That's all. You don't want a funky blade you think looks cool, but you can't use for a lot of different tasks. Something like this, very clean, simple drop point blade. There is somewhat of a swedge on the back, but you see the swedge stops, okay? The advantage to that is that you still have a thicker front end, so you have more strength in your tip. The disadvantage to that is that because it's thicker, you might have not as much penetration. I've talked this before. Think about how many times for utility purposes you're actually stabbing things. You're not. We don't stab things very often. We slice, we cut, we dice, we don't stab. Okay, so as far as having a very, very acute point and a very deep swedge on the front, it really depends on what you use a knife for, but like I said, most of you out there, if you're honest with yourself and you really take advantage of noticing what you do with your knives, you're gonna find you don't stab things very often. And so that's cool, nothing wrong with that. As far as looks, I think it looks great, but a lot of belly here, and there is still a very acute tip. Okay, so if you do need to pierce something very small, which I will do occasionally, I'll have to pierce something just with the very tip. I'm not actually stabbing in, so not worried about that. And as far as like your knives having defensive advantages, I've talked this before where I'll say, yeah, this blade's good for defense, or it might have an advantage for defensive tactics. How many times are you really using your knife to defend yourself? If you're someone out there who really uses your knife more than once in your lifetime to defend your life, you need to find another way to, you got to either move, or if you can't move, you got to find a more effective weapon and get yourself a gun. Because most of us, even though we're very interested in how our knives are going to work for us defensively, you're probably never, ever going to need that. So it shouldn't be a major purchasing consideration. I think, at least generally speaking, when you're looking at knives, knife reviews and stuff, if you're looking to buy a knife, you should really consider you using it as a tool, because 9,999 times, you're going to end up using it as a tool and not a weapon. So just something to think about. We tend to get caught up in the tactical part of things way too much. But anyway, like the blade style, it's really, really cool. Very purposeful. Of course, Kershaw puts their model on every one. Of course, it says KAI USA. If you guys don't know, KAI is the company, the master company or mother company that puts out Kershaw knives, puts out Shun kitchen knives, as well as the Zero Tolerance line. They own all three companies. But anyway, and of course USA is there, which is awesome. And if you look at the tag down here, the one thing that's missing that a lot of Kershaws have is the actual month and year of its birth date. Kind of a bummer. I like that. It's a nice little bonus, but shouldn't take away from the knife and its usability. As far as ergos, generally speaking, I like flipping knives, just because of the fact that it doubles as a guard. Okay, you have your flipper, but in every single case, the flipper extends past and it doubles as a guard. Keeps your hand from slipping up. Again, not very often you're gonna have that slip up anyway, but it's nice to have. You have not a super deep finger choil, but comfortable enough. And then of course you have another large curve to accommodate your other three fingers. Little bit of a thumb ramp, very, very minimal. Not much going on there. No jimping or anything. No grooves, but it's not a problem. Sleek, slender, aluminum knife. If you have all metal knives, you know kind of how that feels in general. Some people would like more grip, more this, that, and the other thing. Hey, if that's your thing, that's cool. I'm here to tell you this one does not have it. Overall, it's very smooth. I like that in some cases I don't. But in this particular case, I do like the knife overall. The aluminum does have some grooves in it. Doesn't do a whole lot for grip. It's more for looks than anything else. This knife overall is a smooth knife, okay? So if you like smooth knives, it's for you. If you like tons of traction and grip and, sandpaper G10 and all that stuff, certainly not for you. Something to consider. Besides all that, let's talk to the blade steel. Okay, put the knife down so you can look at this. Now, I contacted Sandvik, and there's actually a Sandvik company, building a warehouse where they produce it as well, not too far from me. And it's about an hour or so, and I'd love to go there sometime and do a whole tour and talk about their knife, steel selection with, someone who works there. That I'm going to try to get done in the future. Once I get a vehicle and stuff, I like to travel and do some things like that and really give you tours of companies and people and, do interviews and stuff. That's all awesome, all big plans I have for the future. But for now, just looking on the website, they have some different information, of course, on the steel composition and stuff. Now, here's what they have to say about their Sandvik 14C28N. It says Sandvik 14C28N is the latest development in Sandvik's range of knife steels. Optimized chemistry provides a top-grade knife steel with excellent edge performance, high hardness, and good corrosion resistance. This new grade matches the previous highest available hardness without affecting the microstructure. Blade resharpening is therefore easy. At the same time, edge stability in terms of microchipping and edge folding or rolling is also good. With a recommended hardness range of 55 to 62 Rockwell, Sandvik 14C28N is ideal for knife applications which place very high demands on edge sharpness, edge stability, and corrosion resistance, such as chef's knives, pocket knives, hunting, and fishing knives. So the chemical composition of this, you can of course go to Sandvik's website if you want to see this, but something I want to talk to, because a lot of people don't understand the composition, what is in the steel, what makes it good, what makes it bad. Everything's going to have its pros and cons. In this case, the Sandvik 14C28N is very comparable to AUS 6 and AUS 8. It's kind of in the medium range between, it's somewhere in between those two. The biggest component that you want to look for when you're talking about blade composition is the carbon. How much carbon is in your blade? The more carbon, the tougher the knife. Okay, there's also a lot of other factors, you know, chromium, you know, sometimes they'll even put copper, nickel, stuff like that for strength. The chromium level on this is 14%, which is pretty standard. And you put chromium in your blades for rust resistance. So this knife does have a very high tolerance for not rusting, which is really good. But as far as edge retention and stuff, it's very comparable to, like I said, AUS 6 and AUS 8. Now to give you a comparison, AUS 6 has 0.55% on average carbon content, okay? This blade steel has 0.62. Now AUS 8 has 0.70. So again, as far as edge retention, you're looking anywhere in between AUS 6 and AUS 8. However, there's other factors to consider, like magnesium. This happens to have a little bit more magnesium in it than AUS 8. So that brings the toughness back up. There's a lot of different factors when you're talking about blade steels, and it does get very, very confusing. But I want to give you a reference, because if I just say, hey, Sandvik 14C 28N, people's brains start smoking because they don't know what that means. It doesn't mean anything for you. What I can tell you is that it's right in between AUS 6 and AUS 8. A lot of people find that AUS 8 is a very good standard for more affordable knives, say $30 to $50 range or so. It's comparable to that, okay? But it does have a little bit more magnesium in it, which does add overall strength. In short, if you don't know anything I'm talking about, it's easy to sharpen, holds a pretty good edge. Not the best, but hey, it's all price reflective, you know? Overall, I like the knife. It's been a fantastic performer. It's been great for EDC, carries well, not too heavy, very strong lockup. Like I said, the one thing to note is that in this particular one, it does stick a little bit. Okay, perfect. I mean, like a bank vault, that thing locks up. But sometimes one-handed, it's a little bit sticky, a little bit hard or rough to push that over. There's a lot of tension on it. Okay, because there is an integral lock stabilizer in there, which we'll talk about more when I take the knife apart. But yeah, so one-handed, it's got to be broken in even more. It was really tough when I first got it, but I can tell you that it does need to get worn in a little bit before you can close this thing one-handed, okay? Cool knife, I love it. Like I said, there's a lot of options from the $70 to $100 price range, so it may not be your first pick, but it's certainly something to consider. It's a fantastic knife, and I've been really, really happy with it. So Kershaw really knocked it out of the park with this one. They're knockout. So that's it. Thanks for watching, guys. Hopefully you learned a thing or two. If you have any questions, please always feel free to ask. And I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Talk to you soon. Take care.